Guys, so I don't know how you've come to find this video. I don't know who sent it to you. I don't know, but welcome anyway. My name is Jessica McElveen. I am a child behaviour and family dynamics specialist. I live in Brisbane. I've got clients all around the world. And today, for you wonderful dads out there, I wanted to have this video completely dedicated to you. Is the no fluff, straight to the point details about children and their behaviours, just for you, just for dads. So if you're a dad who gets frustrated at the emotions of children, if you're a dad who can't seem to fix the problems, okay, these constant problems that keep popping up for your children and maybe your wife or partner, if you're being told by your wife or partner just that your parenting is too harsh or it's too traditional or it's mean or it's unfair, or there's these constant battles around the different parenting styles, and if you're a dad who just wants to stop the crying and the yelling fast, if you just want to know what you can do to produce the quickest and the best results for everybody and make sure that everybody wins, then this is for you. This training is for you. By the end of the training, you'll have a specific strategy to reduce meltdowns quickly. It's very simple, but it's very, very effective. You will know the difference between everybody in your home and what you can do to see happier children and be on the same page as your wife and your partner as well. Because from my experience working with families, couples, but mothers, I would say 80% of the time, I know that when it comes to parenting styles and the conflict and the tension between you both, who's right, who's wrong, who's got the better approach, who gets the better outcome, there's a lot of conflict around this in home. So I want to show you and help you as much as possible to find a solution to that issue, to that problem. Who am I though? Because you probably have never seen me before, heard of me before, and I'd like to share with you why on earth I'm somebody that you might spend the next 15 minutes or so listening to. So I've spent a good 10 years working with children and families, various fields. I've worked heavily in trauma. I've worked in child safety. I've worked in the health field. And now I really specialize in complex behaviors with children, but also with family dynamics, how we get them from chaotic to calm and harmonious and feeling successful for everybody and a beautiful environment for everybody. So there's a few ways that I do this, and we'll go through some of those ways so that you've got a really clear strategy by the end of this video. So I do work with genetics. I work with epigenetics and the psychology, so biology and psychology. And, you know, I've been lucky enough to be featured on Channel 7 and various nation, but also international podcasts and newspapers and magazines as well for the work that I get to do with the families here in Australia, but also all around the world. So that's a little bit about me, short, sharp, and sweet. So let's get straight into it. The first thing that a lot of mums share with me, and when I've worked with dads as well, the greatest challenge is what on earth is all of these emotions? Where are they coming from? Why are they there? And why can't it just fix itself? Why isn't it? It's not rational, right? There's zero logic in any of it. And for dads, this can prove quite tricky. And this is because of where your strengths are. So first we need to go through the brain, because this gives us the answers to everything. You want to know how to communicate with any human, figure out where in their brain they are functioning from. So during my time as a social worker, working with trauma and PTSD and ADHD and all types of behaviors, we were really choosing the interventions that focused on psychology, okay, cognitive-based therapies. The problem is that they were still focusing and communicating with the wrong part of the brain. They were still trying to focus to the logical part of the brain. And what we know now with all of the brain scans is that children don't have access to the logical part of their brain. It's developing. But what we do have access to, and which will be your gateway to fixing these problems fast, we do know where they're functioning from. We do know the part of their brain that they are behaving from, which is what I want to share with you today. So this is what I want to show you first of all. This is inside a brain. This is inside a newborn, a 1 month, as you can see down here, 9 months, 2 years, and an adult. So you can see these are the neuro pathways, these little lines. So the pathways of messages being sent in your child's brain. Obviously, this happened to you and me as well. So you can see here that newborn in 1 month, there's not too many messages going around. There's not too much. It doesn't look too chaotic here. But as we get a little older, you can see that these messages and what's being developed here increases tenfold. If you've had, or if you've got a 2, 3, 4-year-old, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The chaos, the meltdowns, the tantrums, the unpredictableness of their emotions and their behaviors. This is why. So what's happening in their brain right now is that they are learning what messages to take seriously from their environment. They're trying to make sense of everything. And this is when it happens, when they're 2, 3, and 4. So through repetitive action and repetitive learning, then when we're 2, 3, and 4, you can see there's less as an adult. The 2, 3, 4, over those years, they're deciding what feelings, behaviors, thoughts, and beliefs can be dropped. What can be dropped? So this is why, if you've been repeating yourself to your child, this is why. If the learning is not repetitive, it will not stick. It'll disappear from their mind and what they believe or what they think about. So repetitive is actually good. It's annoying, but it's really good. And it's how they learn. So with this chaos here, this is happening in the part of their brain that they're functioning from. And the part of the brain that they're functioning from is the limbic system, for you science buffs out there, if there are any, or we just name it the emotion center of the brain. So this develops, you know, around 1 to 4. But the thing is that our whole brain doesn't stop until we're about 26. So the emotion center of the brain is developing around these years. Now, what else is here? Well, our memory center is here. So if you've got a child who has learning difficulties or learning challenges, something to take note of. This is where our smoke alarm response is. Okay, so something that triggers off the fight-flight response. So the big meltdowns, tantrums, throwing things across the room, that's where this is. So if there's trouble staying calm, if there's challenges staying focused as well, that's something to take note of right now. And also here in this part of the brain is the beautiful gift and the ability to stay super present. When we're functioning from this part of the brain, we're present. We're not thinking from our logical center and thinking about the future, right? You're probably planning all of the time. You're planning ahead. You're trying to predict the future. You're planning. You need to know what you need to do to provide for your family, give your children what they need, and your wife, your partner. And they're not thinking about the past because they don't have access to that yet. Their body does, but not their brain. So if there are problems with transition, so say from home to homework and then homework to dinner, or watching a movie to having dinner, any of those transition periods, then that's also something to take note of right here. And then what happens is we start to develop the logical center, the neocortex, from about 3. But don't get me wrong here, they still have a really limited point of access to this part of the brain. Now, it says here that it finishes in adolescence, but as I said before, this continues to about 26 years of age. So here, this neocortex, right at the front of our mind, this is the part that you have great access to as an adult. You have a wonderful access to this, the logical part of your brain. Your child just doesn't. They haven't crossed that international border into the logical part of the mind yet, or the logical reasoning. So seeing people's perspectives, seeing your point of view, understanding consequences and remembering the consequences, having the language to describe everything or communicate everything. They just don't have that access yet. And this is usually where a lot of the frustration comes up, because as adults, we so desperately want to communicate with the children. We want to reach some sort of mutual understanding, but they're just not getting it. They're just not listening. Well, there's also the fact that the emotion center is at play here. And when they're heightened as well, this is still the same for adults, but more so with kids. When they're heightened, okay, the logic center flips off. It's like a light switch. It's out of here, and they revert solely back into that emotion center. So it's just emotions. There's no reasoning here. There's no logic. It's just emotion, and they're reacting and they're behaving from that place. So as dad, as a male, as a man, usually your greatest strength is to create structure in your home, but in your environments, and also bring logic to situations that need a solution. You're so good at wanting to fix things and finding the solutions. That's your strength. That's your gift. Now, with our gifts, our greatest gifts are always our greatest challenges. So the catch-22 with this is that your logic isn't going to serve you during times of a meltdown or times of big emotions or escalated emotions. It's just not going to serve you at all. And this is because the part of your child's brain that they're behaving from is the emotion center. So an emotion center trying to communicate with a logic center, not going to work at all, not going to work. So the way I always like to explain this when I'm chatting to dads is, if you're a footy lover, if you are, it's like seeing your team on the field, okay? Seeing a team on the field, they're in a scrum and it's getting pretty messy, right? Maybe there's a few words being spoken about in the scrum. They're getting pretty angry at each other. There's words being thrown around. They're not really thinking logically. They just want the ball, or they're pretty committed to having the last word, or maybe shoving their weight around, whatever it is, right? They're not thinking that logically. And the coach on the sideline, he's thinking to himself, what the hell are they doing and why can't they see the gap through there, right? There's an easy gap there to get the ball out. Why the hell can't they see that? The reality is the players aren't seeing the gap because we've got emotions flying around. The logic really isn't there. So that's what's happening with your children. They're not seeing the logic at all. And so when we can release that expectation that they're going to get it, that they're going to understand what I'm saying. And if I've said it today, I shouldn't need to repeat myself tomorrow or the next day or the next day. If we can release that expectation, then the frustration and the anger tends to disappear. It tends to disappear. So I told you I was going to give you the strategy for every meltdown, any escalation. This is for young children. This is for teens. This is even for your wife. This is definitely for your wife or for your partner. Anybody in your world, when emotion flares, this is what's required. This is how we communicate directly to the emotion center of the brain. And it's so easy, but it's so effective. We must limit words and persuasion. Limit words. So language is in the frontal cortex up here. We don't have access to it when we're emotional. When your kids are emotional, forget about it. So limit your words, because the more words you say, just builds that volcano of irritability, of frustration, of overload. They actually become more overwhelmed, probably. And you've probably noticed that. You've probably been told, don't talk so much or stop talking. Or you've probably noticed with your child that when they are emotional and you're trying to bring logic in with your words, it just further escalates the situation and gets them more frustrated. And persuasion, reduce persuasion. What I mean by this is during those times when there is emotions, don't try and have them see something from a different perspective. Don't make their feeling wrong. Don't try and convince them that they're not really feeling angry. What about this? Yeah, but you felt this yesterday, but you do this. It's really not that bad. Get over it. Move on. We're okay. Whatever it is. So limit persuasion in those moments. Have the conversation afterwards if you need to. But we're trying to decrease the length of meltdowns so they are short, sharp, and sweet when possible. And this is how we do it. And once we do limit words and persuasion, the best part from there is to increase curiosity and validation. So if you're asking them, you're just chatting with them, even in that moment, or what's going on for you, it could be as simple as that. If they want to have a chat and unload everything to you, perfect. If they don't, perfect. But curiosity, if you think to yourself, all right, how can I get curious about this rather than judgmental? and frustrated, your energy changes. It's just different. Your child can feel that you are more open. And if you are open to hearing what they have to say, they actually feel safer with you. They feel safe, which means they will express what they need to get over that hurdle of a meltdown a whole lot quicker, a lot quicker. So usually when we find it hard to accept big emotions like anger and upset and screaming and tantrums, it's because of one of two things. Usually it's because we've been told somewhere along the way that it's not normal and it must be fixed. So just think back to your own childhood when I say these things, because we tend to get our beliefs from there around what emotions mean, how should they be reacted to, or how do we deal with them? So how comfortable are you with emotions is a really good question to ask. Or it triggers your own fight-flight system. I always say 2 triggers equal war, usually. So sometimes, it's really hard to have someone's fight-flight system going off in front of you, that be it maybe your wife, maybe your children, and not have your system a little triggered or irritated. It's going to happen. But if we can do these things, limit words and persuasion, just increase curiosity, and know that we don't need to fix it in the moment, then that will take away that expectation and a lot of that frustration. So how does this help you right now, even after you listen to this video? So when we know the part of the brain in action, meaning the part of the brain that they're behaving from, we know how to react. So there's a successful outcome. So there's less crying, yelling, and screaming. So what's your role during the meltdowns then? What is the role of a parent? What is the role of dad? Well, you are the safe person. As their dad, you are a safe person for them. You provide the safety to your children. So they just need to get out all of the emotions while you're there to comfort them, or maybe just sitting there or just listening. They just need to get it out. That's it. So the tip here is don't look for the logic in these scenarios. There is none. It's not there. It's not going to show up. There's no logic. So save yourself time, energy, and effort, and accept, if you can, and I encourage you to, that there is no logic at all. So how else? So there's 2 prongs to this. So how else can you see happier children have a great relationship and enjoy fatherhood more? How else? So there's an aspect that you may not know yet that is impacting your children. Impacting the relationship that you have with your wife or your partner, and your own health and well-being. So we've gone into the brain. Now we need to dig into the genetic side of things, the biology, to be more specific, because biology equals psychology. So our genes equal behaviors. So if we've got clean genes, we've got healthy behaviors. If we've got dirty genes, we've got unhelpful behaviors. So what do I mean by this exactly? So as parents, you look at your children and your genes dictate certain things. So like hair color, eye color, and skin color. But there's another aspect to us biologically, to children and all of us, but there's another aspect that's dictating other things. Okay? How they learn, how they communicate, the style that they use, how big or small their body will be, their nutrition requirements, it dictates that. It dictates their sleeping patterns and also their energy cycles during the day as well. Their brain function, their behavior patterns, and how and when and if they listen to you. It's dictating all of that. So dirty genes equal dirty behaviors. Clean genes equal clean behaviors. So dirty genes basically means that our genes are overloaded, okay, by what our body is not meant to process constantly. So it might be stress, worry, anxiety. It could be a lack of sleep. It could be poor food, the toxins in our environment, what we're breathing in, or an incorrect lifestyle, okay, the wrong lifestyle for that particular little body, for what's going on in there. So right now, while you're listening to me, thousands of your children's genes and your wife's genes throughout their bodies are giving instructions to their brain, which then results in behaviors and emotions that you get to see, that you see very clearly. So these can be, for example, the message might be, stay calm and you're ready to sleep at night. I'm ready to go to sleep. Go to sleep. Stay calm, stay focused, stay happy. Or the messages could be, you have no energy, you don't have focus, there are headaches, you have headaches, you have insomnia, you can't sleep. It could be you are hypervigilant, you are ADHD, and you feel angry. So these are the different types of messages that our biology is sending to our brain every single second of the day. So what we call this whole thing I'm explaining here is epigenetics. Okay, so epi is on top of genes. All right, it's on top of, literally means above or on top of. So how do genes get dirty? Well, there are many ways that genes get dirty. And I go through this with parents during my 10-week program where we focus on this. And I do all of the testing for both parents and all of the children in your home so we can really get clear on what behaviors are being influenced by dirty genes. So one of the ways that genes get dirty is that the lifestyle that your children is living and being exposed to is stopping the dominant hormone from being produced. So the genes become dirty, they become unhealthy, they become dissatisfied, they become thirsty, just to give you a bit of a visual there. So they're not getting their needs met. And this would mean that these genes are sending those unhelpful and destructive messages to your child's brain. So if you see behaviors like anger, ADHD, anxiety, struggle sleeping, or learning challenges, then it's likely that we've got some genes to clean up. It's very likely that we've got some genes to clean up. This might be for you as well, if there are any sleeping issues or focus issues, or even just feeling good, feeling healthy in your own body. So when I say hormones, right, this being one way that our genes are becoming dirty, what does it look like? Just to give you a bit of an idea. So this is what it looks like. These are the 6 dominant hormones that humans can have. And this is the testing that I do with all of my clients in my program when I work with parents. So as you can see here, we've got a range of dominant hormones. So for example, I sit down here in Crusader land. So my dominant hormone is dopamine. And if I don't do specific things in my life, but do things in exercise, nutrition, my thought patterns, how I live my life, my job, my social scenario, how I communicate with people, how I'm touched, how I'm loved and liked, all of these things. If I don't meet those needs, I don't get my dopamine hit. And I feel very stressed, depressed, dissatisfied, moody, emotional, and it all shows up in my behaviors. It's exactly the same as your children and you and your wife. So I'll give you an example. So I've had one client, it was a dad actually, he was a Crusader and his son was over here in Connectorland, oxytocin, the hormone of love and connection. Now, dad down here being a Crusader, the name says it all, okay? So he's very much on a mission he needs to achieve in order to get that dopamine hit. That's one of the things that his genes need. Now, son wants connection, comes into his office all of the time, and he's showing that neediness, right? Really needy. Just seems like he wants attention, that attention-seeking behavior. So what did we need to do? Well, once we uncovered this, then we understood what his son was trying to do. Dad then was like, okay, he's actually not trying to ruin my day. He's not trying to ruin my work and make life hard for me. He's actually just doing what his body wants, and that is to seek connection. So we made some structural changes in his day. Okay, we altered how dad viewed connection with his son, when he did it during the day, the times of day, all of that's very important for this little one, the timings of day. And sure enough, no need anymore. The needy behaviors disappeared. The son didn't come into the office as often anymore. And dad actually felt so much, he was less stressed and less annoyed with his son, less reactive too. So how do we support these hormones then? So this is just one way to clean up our genes and start seeing healthier behaviors and happier behaviors as well in the family. How do we do that? One way is through our lifestyle priorities. So this is a systematic formula. Once we know where you sit here through the testing, once we know where your children sit, we then have a formula. We know what the body needs to clean up those genes. And this is just, I just wanted to flash this by you to show you what it means. This is what it means. So let's just say mine down here, right? You can see my priorities. And there's steps within this that we do. These are the 6 priority steps that we need to do. It's a formula. And once you do this with your children, for your children, and you and your wife, you will see an entirely different family dynamic. So why am I telling you this about the biology? Well, it's important to know that we need to understand the brain, but we also need to understand the biology, because our biology, as I said, is sending thousands of messages to your child's brain each minute of the day, thousands. So get the biology clean, get the genes clean, get their needs met, have them feel healthy, and you'll have your child's body sending their brain healthy messages, happy messages, focused messages, calm messages, everything that you want to see for them in them, so that you can have that happy, calm, and harmonious home. So the takeaways, the top tips. So your strength as a dad, as a man, your strength as a wonderful dad is to fix problems. So it's also a challenge though when it comes to children. It's also the challenge. The emotion center of the brain is at play with your children. So reduce the language and just listen. Reduce language and validate and just be present with them. Allow the emotions to get out and the length of the meltdown will decrease. So don't look for logic, because you'll be wasting your time and your energy and your effort. And actually, you'll probably further escalate the situation anyway. And find out the epigenetic types of your family. You want results fast? This is the way to do it. This is the way to do it. And I do this in the 10-week program that I have for families. So if you want to know more, if you want to learn about the epigenetics of your family, if you feel like that's required right now, or you want to ask any questions about what I've shared, then just contact me through this email. Just contact me there and I'd be more than happy to go through anything that I went through today. And that's it from me. So I'm Jessica McElveen, and however you found this video or this recording of me, I'm glad you did. And I hope you're glad that you did too. Thanks. And maybe we'll chat soon. I hope so. Bye for now.